What is up, YouTube? It's Nice. It is time for the Korea trip review. I intentionally waited a couple weeks to do this because I was still burned out on League, on the trip, on everything, and I wanted to be in a neutral mind frame before I posted this to the channel. Doubly exciting. This is the first video that I've done since I changed all my branding from like Nice, BingeGaming.tv to Nice. So super pumped about that. If you like this video, please remember to share it, like, subscribe, all that bullshit. I'm going to be covering everything about Korea, the trip, my experiences, my results, things that I would change, and where I will be going on the next trip that will likely be funded from the awesome Patreon community, the guys that really fucking support hard all this stuff. So without further ado, let's first talk about the results. Peaked Masters MMR. Diamond in around 60 to 70 games solo, which is pretty standard with all the 100 games to Diamond stuff that I did, like low elo here in the States. Peaked Diamond 3, 99 LP, promos 7 times to Diamond 2. Could not fucking defeat the Diamond 2 promos. Played over 400 games, played all roles, primarily top lane and primarily Gangplank. Minimal doing, less than 20 games, and the promo runs. We're going to talk more about these ridiculous promo runs, and this ties into a lot of different factors. I think that I was one of the issues with these, but we'll touch more on that going forward. But yeah, let's talk about the trip and why this trip was so rough on me. I don't think people realize I was super negative through pretty much all the experience on my stream. You could pretty much just find me raging on the stream. If you look through past broadcasts, even some of the videos that I posted were just super angry. I am known as a guy who has been labeled as toxic by the Reddit community before. But to know, like, this, even for me, even for my standards, this was on a level of just, I was so mad for most of the trip. The first things first, I missed the first flight. I got, like, I had a 3-hour drive to the airport, and the traffic was awful. So it was like 4-hour drive to the airport. So I missed the first flight because for international flights you got to be there super early. So I got to Korea a day late. Cowsep was awesome. He let me use a laptop. He helped me find a living space and took on the charges when we moved. I don't know if you guys knew that, but like the first weekend we had to move locations, which is down there on the list. He was awesome, but his plans changed. Things came up. I was supposed to be staying with him, hanging out with him. He was supposed to be showing me around, but his plans changed. So as a result, I got screwed. And again, I'm not bashing the dude. He was super helpful. We had some games on the channel, so it wasn't like it was bad blood or anything. Just shit happened, but it screwed me really hard for the majority of the trip because I didn't have anyone to hang out with, anyone to explore with, no one to like just vent to. It sucked. Laptop issues. Laptop he gave me worked for the most part. Sometimes it got a little heated. I tweaked it and adjusted it to the point of where it was effective around like week 2-ish. I finally fixed all the issues. Internet issues. The first location could not get good internet, which was bizarre because I was in Korea. Then the move across town. Eventually those internet issues were so bad that I had to move, which LS helped me with. Last Shadow, the other League of Legends coach, a very good guy. And if I'm being totally honest, I was not like, I wouldn't say I disliked him. I just wasn't really a big fan of him. And we met up and he helped me. He was super nice, super friendly. He was a generous dude. And we talked, we bonded. No, I'm kidding. We bonded. It was great. So I have nothing but positive things to say about him after the experience. Whatever your opinions of him are, I can assure you that he's not a bad dude. The first account that I was using on the trip was compromised, which just added to it. I had to find a new account like on week 2. I had to basically start all over again, which was miserable. My food, my sleep, I didn't exercise. Like, it was all bad. That shit was awful. And basically, long story short, this entire trip, I was about as miserable as I've been, and I've deployed to Afghanistan. This was, I'm not even kidding. I would rather have deployed to Afghanistan for a month and take the Afghanistan living conditions than what I dealt with. I'm not even kidding you. It was awful. I'm not making excuses for any of the results or anything, but it did suck. It was awful. The observations about Korea as opposed to NA. So Korea League of Legends is beyond the phrase toxic, as in I find it to be the worst server in the world. And this is not like, I took time off before making this video, and this is still how I feel. There's no punishment system in place. So oftentimes what you'll find on the server, and this happened it was unreal. It was like night and day. It was like once you get into Diamond rank, it was like the worst. What you'll find is that the players, because PC bong culture is so popular in Korea, as in people just go to LAN centers, they're on every street corner in Korea pretty much. And their games, like their time in game it costs them money, and money is short supply in a population hub like Seoul, or the places where the gamers are more often playing. You'll find that as soon as a game is going bad, Koreans want to quit. And it's not just like, oh, I'm going to passively aggressively stay, bitch, but still play like it is in NA. These guys will literally do everything in their power to make the game a loss, just short of sitting in the fountain. Because you can't sit in the fountain, because there is a lever buster system in place, but Koreans just override it. They just walk around the map, and they do, we were talking about LS, he coined this term, passive inting, where they'll just sit around team fights and they won't even do anything. This is not an exaggeration. This was seen time and time again on stream. Players that were losing would routinely do this, where they would just float around team fights, not do anything, and make sure that you lost until the game was a loss. Like when they decided that the game was over, there was no stopping them. The game was over. In regards to the actual gameplay, Korean versus NA, like I would say Koreans are way better mechanically. In comparison, like raw mechanics, like it's without a doubt Koreans are way better than, which you guys already knew. However, and this is something that people were parroting from me, was that even though their laning is great, their mid to late game is not. It is so, and it might be that they're better than North American players still yet, but it was so drastically worse in comparison that I oftentimes was on stream and I was just like, these guys actually don't know how to play mid to late game. They routinely take like 4v5 fights, just like on NA, just like any other server. If they see you splitting off the side, they will fight. They don't care. And if you don't teleport to help them, they rage. They're liable to do the passive inting thing. Same with like blue buffs and red buffs and shit like that. They tunnel on the blue buffs, they tunnel on the red buffs mid to late game. If you take buffs from them, they're way more likely to quit if they don't like you or they think that they've been slighted. Egos are way higher, quitting's way higher. Anything outside of lane phase is way more volatile, and it's not all roses and fucking Cinnabons over there. It's very much like we're good at the early game most of the time, and then everything else is pretty much League of Legends, I think. I know you guys, the Dong Huop video was making its rounds. I thought it was an interesting thing because I was writing this, and I distinctly remember the opposite of his video, where it was better games in the mornings, worse games at night. I found that the games in Korea were actually worse at night, and well, at least worse in terms of people giving up and quitting. The later it went, the more this was happening. So games from like 9 to like afternoon, I was catching more mature players, which was very interesting contrast to that video that he posted. And then the last thing playing on the server is playing aggressively in lane early game is always plus expected value, as in like that poker term. As long as you're doing that and you're doing it well, long term you're going to win. Especially because those lethality changes hit in the middle of my climb. Shit like Quinn Pantheon was like extra strong. I'll talk more about GP, the grasp style, but basically the GP story goes something like this. I made Diamond in Korea in about 65 games, primarily with Gangplank, Thunderlords, just AFK farming. So this strat stopped being effective suddenly in around mid-diamond. I dropped all the way down. Like, I was just panic. I was like panic overcorrecting, tilting. Like, I tried different champs. Like, I was working on Rumble. My Rumble actually got really good off of this trip, which was funny. But I was just like, GP sucks. He obviously sucks. LS tweets me some Korean GP that had a super high win rate, who was like challenger, multiple seasons, played primarily GP to get there, who runs Grasp. It was like 12-0-18 Grasp in all lanes, with Corrupting Pot. In the time that I got that tweet, I was super down because I literally downswung from like Diamond 2 promos all the way to Diamond 5. This was the largest downswing I had on the trip. I mean, you have plenty of ups and downs doing solo queue. This was one of the worst I've ever had, and I was super down from the trip. It was just, I was miserable. You can check the tweets. I was miserable at that point. So I did that strat that he sent me, and I recovered from the downswing in like 3 days. So, and I had never played that strat before. And so I would say, as a lesson learned, in Korea, play to just win the lane. If you have a choice in playing to win the lane or playing to play passive, if you have a say, in additionally in the whole GP spectrum, playing Grasp and Corrupting Pot wins lane a lot. You play to win the lane, like, no question, because that's all Koreans are doing in Diamond and up. They just play to win the lane. If the lane goes great, they keep playing. If they lose lane or the game's going bad, they quit. So you got to play to win every lane, because they just will shut down. They don't like to play the game like long-term games if they think that there's a chance that they'll, or if it's a high chance that they'll lose. So we talked about the experiences of the trip, like the actual trip. We talked about the results, the observations. I'm going to talk about my final thoughts and lessons on this experience. I thought this trip was miserable. However, even though it was miserable, I learned a lot about League, about doing things like this, about traveling. I've never actually traveled to a foreign country alone. So I learned a lot, and I definitely intend to change a lot of things. The first thing I want to say is that solo queue League of Legends at the highest level, in this case Korean League of Legends, is rough. Now, I don't think Korean ladder is as amazing as people paint it to be because of the toxicity stuff. There's the things that I bitch about in NA in terms of like people wasting time and like being just being general shitty humans is amplified in Korea. Like it's just unreal. So I basically spent a month in Korea just grinding League solo queue with bad sleep, bad food, just doing nothing else, and it was incredibly unhealthy. It was just an awful, awful experience, and I would strongly encourage. I mean, I am a streamer. I get paid to do this. I'm not a pro, but I'm allowed to do this every day as a job, and I can choose to just keep grinding solo queue. I'm not. Getting back into the lessons and shit. I would strongly encourage, if your intent is to go pro or what have you, take care of yourself and understand at its core, League of Legends solo queue at the highest level is a very rough, draining experience. Do not put a time constraint on your results like I did. Take breaks, eat well, hang out with friends. Dude, you cannot just play this game all day. Thank God this was only a few weeks of dealing with this type of stress for me, because I can't say it enough. Riot doesn't understand it. Most of their employees are low elo. Like, people do not understand how rough this game is at the highest level. A session where you get like 4 or 5 AFKs in a row and you drop, and every important game, like say your MMR peaks out, like mine did, MMR peaks up to like Masters, or you hit a promo and you win your lane and you crush the guy that you're outranking, but then your entire team feeds, or you get back-to-back promo games of just people inting and giving up, and that happens like multiple times. Dude, that is the worst, especially when it's not, that is all you're doing during the day. So I'm saying this as a fucking public service announcement to anybody that wants to take this game seriously. Hear my words, dude. I know you're out there. Dude, don't get too hung up on it. Seriously. Do whatever you got to do. Don't stress it. Please don't. For me, trips need to be shorter. Less stress on the result for me. I planned a 1-month trip. It sucked being away from my wife that long. But the other thing, it was long. It was draining. I was worried too much about climbing and falling and all that stuff. In reality, especially when you're playing solo, you got to play a lot, and you can have some pretty wild variance at the highest level. Especially the skill gap of League of Legends is closing, and the players are getting better. So, like, it's very hard to reliably control games unless you have some really busted strat. And, like, right now we have the lethality meta where if you stack lethality on a champion like Zed, you're rocking, right? Well, that's only going to last so long. So that's the game, is you got to find some broken shit, you got to spam it, play it well, and, you know, if the result happens, it happens, but you can't get too married to it, especially playing solo. I need to, if the next time I do this trip, I need to vlog and actually get out and do shit. I started vlogging, and then I got stressed with everything, and then I didn't even want to leave the place I was staying, and then I had no one to go with. Next time I will correct that. I will document the trip in a better way, especially on the channel. It will be better documentation on this YouTube channel as opposed to just games, like gameplay, and that's it. I will do more stuff. I'll do more presentations, whatever it's got to be. It's gonna be something. And finally, the next trip will be EU West, and I intend to find a duo partner. For two reasons. One, like I was saying, solo queue is just it's a grind. That's all it really is. It's a grind, and it's depressing, and it's lonely, and it's awful. But the second thing is, I want a duo partner because I want someone to travel with and explore with wherever I go to visit on these trips in the future. So I've already reached out to some people. They may or may not respond, but, you know, this will be your chance if you want me to game with someone. And they don't have to be insanely popular on YouTube. I don't care if they're less popular than me, as long as they're good at the game and they would want to do like a duo grind for a couple weeks. Hit them up, have them tweet me, whatever. All right. And then before I go, this is great, by the way. I love the opportunity, and I sincerely thank YouTube, Patreon, Twitch, all those guys for giving me the opportunity to do this. I learned a lot about myself, about traveling, about League, about everything. This was everything that it should have been, sans all the struggle bus shit that we had to deal with. But last thing I wanted to say, the lessons are coming back. I'm getting back onto my coaching grind. I'll be coaching on stream pretty much every day at twitch.tv/Nice. NA solo queue is pretty much dead to me, so you're probably not going to be seeing me do solo queue grinds until like the next trip. I'm going to be focusing on my stream, like the coaching shit, and making content for you guys on stream and YouTube, because I've spent the last few months prepping this thing, and I've learned, I get it. I'm over it. I'm going to focus on my stream and my channel now. If you enjoyed this trip, the gameplay, and look forward to the EU West adventures, please subscribe. Check out the Patreon if you want to support it by more than just by internet subscriptions. While I appreciate any bit of support, the Patreon stuff is what made this trip possible, and I would really like to be one of the few guys on the League of Legends realm that actually travel and mix in traveling with the experience. I think it's cool. I think it's unique, and I want to do more like it. I think I covered everything about this experience. If you notice, I didn't cover much about Korea and like what it was like, because I'm being real. I was basically stuck in a fucking shoebox grinding League of Legends. The most I can tell you about Korea is that the subways are awesome and that McDonald's is cool, and I could order like Korean barbecue by like nodding and pointing at shit. That's literally my trip. Next time I will do a better job of documenting, taking pictures, and doing stuff like that. You can see why I want to adjust in the future. But I hope for the shit that I actually did talk about, I hope it meant something to you. I will do a better job next time, and I really do appreciate it. It's Nice. I love you, and yeah, I will see you on stream and in the coaching videos. All right, I'm out. Peace. Crack. Thanks so much.